Welcome to TT-Buddhism, where we explore the profound wisdom of Buddhism and its practical applications in everyday life. Our goal is to share insights from the Buddha's teachings that help cultivate peace, clarity, and deeper self-understanding. Today we delve into an intriguing topic, the truth beyond right and wrong. In our daily lives, we are often caught up in debates about what is right and wrong, good and bad, true and false. Whether in personal relationships, social discussions, or even within our own minds, we constantly judge and categorize things according to these dualities. But in Buddhism, truth is not always as simple as a rigid distinction between right and wrong. The ancient Pali scriptures present a paradox. On one hand, the Buddha teaches the Four Noble Truths as fundamental, absolute truths. They define suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to liberation. Right view, one of the steps on the Noble Eightfold Path, is considered essential for enlightenment. On the other hand, certain Buddhist texts suggest that an enlightened person goes beyond all views and attachments, refusing to cling to any concept of truth or falsehood. This raises an important question. Did the Buddha truly deny the existence of absolute truth? Or did he offer a deeper, more nuanced understanding of how we should relate to truth? In this video, we will unravel this paradox and explore its practical significance in our spiritual journey. Stay with us as we dive into the wisdom of the Buddha and learn how to apply this insight in our daily lives. The paradox of truth and views in Buddhist scriptures. As we explore this profound topic, we encounter an apparent contradiction in Buddhist scriptures regarding truth and views. On one hand, the Buddha's teachings emphasize the Four Noble Truths as absolute and universal. These truths, the reality of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to liberation, are the foundation of Buddhist practice. The Noble Eightfold Path, particularly right view, is essential for spiritual progress. According to texts such as the Digha Nikaya and Majjhima Nikaya, enlightenment is equated with the realization of truth. In this sense, truth is not just a philosophical concept, but a reality that can be experienced and fully understood. On the other hand, certain texts, particularly those found in the Atthakavagga of the Sutta Nipata, present a different perspective. These verses suggest that an enlightened being does not cling to any assertions as absolutely true or false. In Sutta Nipata 4:9, the Buddha states that one who has gone beyond attachment does not engage in disputes over what is true or false. Similarly, in Sutta Nipata 4:12, he criticizes those who argue about truth, stating that people cling to their views, believing them to be the only reality while dismissing others as fools. At first glance, these two perspectives seem contradictory. If truth is absolute, why would the Buddha suggest that an awakened person does not hold on to any view as true or false? Should one firmly adopt right view, or should one let go of all views altogether? This paradox has led to two primary interpretations among scholars and practitioners. Some believe that the contradiction is intentional, suggesting that the Buddha used different meanings of truth depending on the context. Before reaching enlightenment, one must rely on right view as a guide along the path. However, once liberated, the mind transcends attachment to all views, even the view of truth itself. Others argue that only one of these perspectives truly represents the Buddha's teachings. Some claim that the Atthakavagga reflects the original message of the Buddha, while later texts may have overstated the importance of the Four Noble Truths. Others believe that the rejection of truth in the Atthakavagga was meant to challenge dogmatic thinking rather than deny the existence of truth altogether. So, how can we resolve this paradox? To find clarity, we must examine how the Buddha defined truth and its role in spiritual practice, a subject we will explore next. The impact of misinterpreting truth in Buddhist practice. Understanding the paradox of truth in Buddhism is essential, as misinterpreting it can lead to significant misconceptions about the path to enlightenment. If one entirely denies the existence of absolute truth, several problems arise. First, without a clear distinction between truth and falsehood, there would be no foundation for practice. The Buddha emphasized right view as a necessary guide on the path to liberation. If all views were equally valid or meaningless, then how could one differentiate between skillful and unskillful actions, or between the causes of suffering and the way to its cessation? Second, rejecting objective truth would undermine the Four Noble Truths, which form the core of Buddhist teachings. If suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path to liberation were merely subjective opinions rather than universal realities, the entire framework of the Buddha's teachings would collapse. The Four Noble Truths are not just ideas to be debated. They describe fundamental aspects of human existence and provide a practical roadmap to liberation. To dismiss them as mere relative perspectives would contradict the Buddha's emphasis on direct experience and realization. Third, the claim that there is no absolute truth is self-contradictory. If one asserts that all truth is subjective and that there is no universal right or wrong, then that very statement itself cannot be taken as an absolute truth. This kind of reasoning leads to a paradox where even the belief in the rejection of truth becomes meaningless. Without some level of objective truth, discussions about the nature of suffering, morality, and liberation lose their coherence. Furthermore, misunderstanding the Buddha's rejection of clinging to views can lead to passivity and nihilism. Some might assume that since an enlightened person does not cling to views, it is unnecessary to hold any views at all. However, this ignores an important distinction. The process of letting go must be preceded by proper understanding. Just as one must use a raft to cross a river before letting it go, one must first cultivate right view to navigate the path of practice. If one discards all views prematurely, without having developed wisdom, one risks being swept away by confusion and ignorance rather than reaching the shore of enlightenment. In conclusion, while the Buddha taught that one should not cling to views, he did not advocate for a complete rejection of truth. Instead, he emphasized the importance of skillful engagement with truth, using it as a tool for liberation rather than as an object of attachment. The key is to hold to right view as long as necessary, while remaining open to deeper realizations. This nuanced understanding allows us to walk the path with both clarity and flexibility, avoiding the extremes of dogmatism and relativism. A practical approach to truth in Buddhism. Having explored the paradox of truth and the dangers of misinterpretation, we now turn to a more practical question. How should we approach truth in our spiritual practice? The Buddha's teachings suggest that truth should be understood not only in terms of accuracy, but also in terms of its usefulness. A statement or belief is not valuable simply because it is factually correct. It must also serve a purpose in reducing suffering and leading toward liberation. This pragmatic approach is reflected in the Buddha's metaphor of the raft, from the Majjhima Nikaya 22. Just as a man crossing a river must use a raft to reach the other shore, a practitioner must rely on right view as a guiding principle on the path. However, once the person reaches the other shore, there is no need to carry the raft any further. The same applies to truth. We must hold on to useful truths while we are still progressing on the path, but once they have served their purpose, clinging to them becomes unnecessary. The key is to recognize when a truth is helpful and when it is time to let it go. The Buddha also differentiated between truth that corresponds to reality and truth that serves a purpose in practice. In some cases, a belief might be factually correct but lead to more suffering. For example, a person may realize that everything is impermanent and use this insight to fall into despair, believing that nothing in life matters. While the truth of impermanence is undeniable, its proper application should lead to detachment and freedom rather than hopelessness. This highlights an essential Buddhist principle. Truth should be applied skillfully to bring about liberation, not suffering. Moreover, the Buddha warned against the attachment to views, even correct ones. While we need right view to progress, turning it into an absolute, unchangeable doctrine can create rigidity and dogmatism. True wisdom involves knowing how to use truth as a tool rather than an identity or a possession. This means engaging with truth flexibly, using it to guide our actions while remaining open to deeper realizations. In essence, the Buddha's approach to truth balances commitment and detachment. We must be committed to the truths that help us develop wisdom and compassion, yet detached enough to recognize when our understanding needs to evolve. This dynamic approach allows us to practice effectively, avoiding the extremes of blind dogma and empty relativism. Applying this understanding to daily life. Understanding the Buddha's approach to truth is not just a theoretical exercise. It has profound implications for how we navigate our daily lives. In a world filled with conflicting opinions, rigid beliefs, and endless debates over what is right or wrong, adopting a skillful approach to truth can help us cultivate wisdom, inner peace, and more harmonious relationships. One of the most practical applications of this understanding is developing right view as a guide, while avoiding dogmatic attachment to it. In everyday life, we often become attached to our opinions, convinced that we are absolutely right while others are wrong. This attachment to being right can lead to arguments, stress, and suffering. However, by following the Buddha's wisdom, we can hold to our views with confidence without clinging to them as fixed and unchangeable. This means being open to learning, refining our understanding, and acknowledging that even what we consider true today may evolve as our wisdom deepens. Another important lesson is knowing when to engage and when to let go. Many people waste time and energy debating opinions, trying to prove others wrong, or getting frustrated when their perspectives are not accepted. The Buddha's teachings remind us that truth is not something to be forcefully imposed upon others. Instead of arguing for the sake of winning, we should focus on whether engaging in a discussion will lead to greater understanding or unnecessary conflict. Sometimes, the wisest course of action is silence, not out of avoidance, but out of wisdom, in recognizing when a discussion is unproductive. Furthermore, this approach can help us develop compassion and patience. When we understand that people hold different views based on their experiences, conditioning, and level of understanding, we become less reactive and more empathetic. Rather than seeing differing opinions as threats, we can see them as opportunities for reflection and growth. This allows us to cultivate peace within ourselves and in our interactions with others. Ultimately, the Buddha's approach to truth teaches us how to think wisely, speak mindfully, and act skillfully. It encourages us to pursue truth in a way that leads to freedom rather than attachment. By applying this understanding, we can navigate life with clarity, avoid unnecessary suffering, and cultivate a mind that is both discerning and at peace. As we reach the conclusion of this discussion, it is important to reflect on the deeper significance of the Buddha's approach to truth and its impact on our spiritual journey. The teachings on truth go beyond mere intellectual debates. They offer us a profound way to cultivate wisdom, navigate challenges, and live a life of greater clarity and inner peace. One of the most valuable takeaways is the balance between commitment and flexibility. The Buddha did not advocate blind adherence to any belief, nor did he promote a nihilistic view where nothing matters. Instead, he showed us that truth is a tool, one that should be used wisely. When we are still walking the path, we need to hold on to right view as a guide, just as a traveler needs a map. However, as we progress, we must also recognize when to let go, just as a person who reaches their destination no longer needs to cling to the map. This ability to engage with truth skillfully, holding on to it when necessary and letting go when appropriate, is the key to a mind that is both discerning and free. Furthermore, embracing this approach to truth helps us cultivate humility and openness. It reminds us that what we consider true today may evolve as our understanding deepens. This humility allows us to continue learning, to be open to new perspectives, and to grow without being hindered by rigid beliefs. It also helps us relate to others with greater compassion, as we recognize that everyone is navigating their own journey toward understanding. Instead of arguing over who is right, we can focus on supporting each other in the pursuit of wisdom and peace. Most importantly, the Buddha's teachings encourage us to apply truth in a way that leads to liberation. The ultimate purpose of seeking truth is not to win arguments or prove superiority, but to free ourselves from suffering. By approaching truth with wisdom and mindfulness, we align ourselves with the deeper purpose of the path, to cultivate peace, clarity, and awakening. As we conclude, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for taking the time to explore this profound topic. Your willingness to reflect on these teachings and apply them in your life is what keeps the spirit of the Dharma alive. If this discussion has been meaningful to you, I invite you to continue this journey of discovery. Thank you for your time, your curiosity, and your dedication to inner growth. May your path be filled with wisdom and peace.